This cake looks complicated, but what if I told you it wasn't? What if I told you it's the simplest cake decorating project you'll ever attempt? You'll need gum paste, icing shortening, Sweetex is a good brand, a ball tool, medium to large size, cornstarch and a super soft pastry brush. A pasta roller attachment would be nice, but it is not a necessity. I did not get a pasta roller or learn how to use one for gum paste until my career in gum pasting was over, but they are wonderful for consistency and speed. Working clean and organized is paramount when you are working in gum paste. Every tool and surface that you use must be 100% washable and cleanable. An acrylic rolling pin, an acrylic or metal ball tool, cutters made out of plastic or metal. I have rose petal cutters, but if you don't, you can use a circular cutter that is fluted or straight. When you choose a foam surface to work on, you are going to choose it based on how firm it is. For a rose petal, I like a medium firmness. The plastic mat you work on should have a little bit of give. It should not be brittle, but it should be firm enough to press a cutter into. My drying flap is double and quite large, but if you don't have one, you can use plastic wrap. Unfurled cotton balls are sanitary and breathable. They are by far my favorite surface for drying gum paste petals and flowers. Gum tragacanth is the main ingredient in gum paste. The difference between rolled fondant and gum paste is that rolled fondant stays soft and pliable when dry. Gum paste, while very stretchy to the point of being able to be rolled so thinly you can read through it, dries very firm and brittle, and satin ice happens to dry very quickly. When I work, gum paste is either in my hand or it is wrapped in plastic. I do not leave it on the countertop or out in the air for longer than 5 to 10 seconds at any given time. In order to soften even the driest gum paste, you are going to use Sweetex on the counter and roll and knead the gum paste into it until it is soft and pliable. I spend a good amount of time kneading my gum paste before, during, and after I work, and absolutely before I put it away for the night or for the long term. The commercial gum paste red is a little too saccharine for me, so I added some chili pepper food color, 1 drop, to warm it up a little bit. When gum paste dries, it lightens in color. So even though this is a little darker than I want, I know it will lighten up during the drying process. In your work area, you will always keep cornstarch and Sweetex. This is because during 5 minutes time that you work with any one given piece of gum paste, you will go from overly dry and unmanageable to overly wet and sticking to your tools and to your hands. I err on the side of going very lightly with the cornstarch. You can always add more. The rollers are at their widest width at level 1. With each pass, I go to the next level all the way to 5. If your speed on the machine is too slow, your dough may stick, and if it's too fast, you may have trouble controlling it. Start lower and then move faster as you gain proficiency. I began using the machine to roll the dough to a stage 4. I haven't done this in a while and it's a little easier to handle it when it's a little thicker. But when you roll sugar dough thicker, you use more of it. You have to work harder with the ball tool to thin the petals into a pretty natural thinness. But the finished product does look a little clunkier and not as natural as a real flower petal. But as with anything, we begin big and go smaller. So we start out making it easier until we gain some skills, and then we work thinner, smaller, and more detailed. My love of gum pasting began years ago when I realized you could emulate a real flower to the point where people thought it was real and were stunned to find out it was made out of sugar. As soon as you sheet gum paste to number 5, you must put it on the placemat and begin cutting your petals. Those petals must go into the drying flap as quickly as possible. They are drying so fast that you will not be able to cup, ruffle, or shape them. When the gum paste becomes sticky on the cutting board or when I am shaping the petals, I use just a little bit of cornstarch. If you have hot hands, just put a little bit of cornstarch on them and you will be able to handle the gum paste much more easily. Gum pasting can be very hard on your hands, so you want to pay attention to how you hold the tools so that you distribute the effort to your arm, not just your wrist and fingers. Multi-petal cutters are life-changing. You can make so many more, so much more quickly. I highly recommend them, especially if you're going to make this a long-term hobby or a business. After you cut a petal or a circle with the cutter, you're going to place it on the foam pad. Using a ball tool, you will begin in the middle of the petal, rounding it out and making it thinner, but not working on the edges quite yet. After you've achieved the appropriate thinness, you are going to take the larger end of the ball tool and rub it around the edges of the petal, and when you are ready to make a little bit of a ruffle, you will go back and forth, and it will naturally happen. I highly recommend you pull a petal off of a rose, or maybe take a look at one at the grocery store. You want your petal to be cupped and shaped like a real flower petal. You may have noticed that I work very methodically and always in the same direction and the same order. I never flip the gum paste over, whether I'm rolling it out or cutting or shaping. The gum paste that is up should always remain up during the entire process. If I had to say the one mistake that all cake decorating students do without knowing is that they leave the gum paste unwrapped for more than 5 seconds at a time, over and over again, to the point where their gum paste becomes so dry and brittle that it's really quite unworkable. You should become protective of your gum paste, using the Sweetex and the plastic wrap to keep it moist, not only while you're working, but for storage. It's very expensive, and it will appreciate you by giving you much prettier finished product. I use a wet magic eraser to remove any food coloring on my countertop immediately. If you let it dry, you might have more trouble getting it to release. I'm off to walk my dog and let the petals dry, and tomorrow I will come back with more petals and the next step for making this easy, beautiful cake.